Welcome to Mindset Matters Book Club YouTube channel. Please subscribe and like to hear new book summaries. We are so excited today to launch into a deep dive on a book that, honestly, it promises to transform the way you think about your most precious, non-renewable resource, to your time.
We are totally immersing ourselves in the book Best Laid Plans by Dr. Sarah Hart-Unger.
Yeah.
And it offers this. Well, it's a gentle, lighthearted, but incredibly robust system for intentional living.
So our mission for this deep dive is really to pull out the core philosophies, the essential tools, there are 3 of them we absolutely have to talk about, and the practical strategies that build up this whole system.
Exactly. We want to show you how to move from feeling constantly reactive, which I think we all do sometimes, to becoming, well, fundamentally proactive in your own life.
I think what makes this deep dive so compelling, what really hooked me, is the author's background. I mean, this is not theoretical advice from someone with unlimited time.
Not at all. Dr. Hart-Unger is a physician. She still manages these 7-day, 7-night stretches of clinical call.
Which means she's dealing with medical emergencies at like 3 in the morning.
At 3 in the morning. On top of that, she's trained for and completed 6 marathons. She's a mother of 3, and she runs a successful creative business with multiple podcasts.
It's the ultimate proof of concept. The system works under extreme pressure.
It was born out of necessity. She talks about being in medical training with small kids, pumping breast milk multiple times a day. When your schedule has that little room for error, mastering this stuff becomes a survival skill.
That context alone is just so reassuring, If her system works when the stakes are that high, it definitely gives hope to the rest of us who are just struggling with the usual crush of modern life.
Right. And at the heart of it all is a very simple philosophy.
Yeah.
Time is finite.
It's the one thing you can never get back.
Never. So planning, in her view, isn't a chore. It's the intentional mechanism we use to allocate our hours, days, weeks, and so on. Without it, you're just letting life happen to you.
You're just reacting. And that distinction is perfectly laid out in this anecdote she shares right at the beginning, The Tale of Two Mondays. It just breaks down the emotional difference between feeling overwhelmed and feeling prepared.
Oh, we have to get into this. Monday number 1 it's just painfully familiar.
It is pure chaos.
So she wakes up late, already starting the day in a deficit. She misses a run with a friend because she forgot to double-check the schedule.
So right away, a priority, something for herself, is lost.
Gone. Then she's frantically packing lunches, and before she can even get out the door, the dry cleaning hits. She forgot to check if the suit she needs is actually ready.
And then comes that classic modern moment of information overload, the ambush.
The ambush, yes. At school drop-off, the teacher needs a specific box of ronzoni pasta. It has to be ronzoni for a 6th grade physics project. And where was that info?
Buried deep in a WhatsApp thread she never processed. And that emotional drag, just knowing you missed something important, is huge.
It just compounds at work. She gets there without her 50-minute buffer, so she's scrambling. The first meeting suffers. She spends the whole morning just fighting fires in her email.
And then, exhausted, running on fumes, she commits to a huge new project with a 24-hour deadline without even looking at her existing workload.
That one move.
Yeah.
That guarantees a stressful afternoon and evening.
It's just not like fog.
Right. The whole day just spirals. It ends with the realization that the slow cooker dinner she planned never actually got put in the slow cooker.
So it's expensive takeout. And then she has to do that desperate late-night run for the specific brand of pasta or argue with her partner about who has to do it.
And she crashes into bed, annoyed, and then does what we all do. Revenge procrastination on her phone for an hour, totally sabotaging her sleep. It's just an exhausting loop.
Now, compare that to Monday number 2. The planning was done on Friday evening. The mental load is already lifted. So she confirms the run the night before. She gets her miles in. She comes home to pack lunches, an outfit laid out, all because a task on her weekly list reminded her to check the dry cleaning. The slow cooker is already on.
And this is where the system really shines. When the teacher asks about the ronzoni pasta.
She's got it. She can just calmly say, no problem. I saw that WhatsApp message last week and grabbed it with the groceries.
No stress. She gets to work with her buffer, the prep is done, the meeting is productive, and when that huge 24-hour project request comes in...
She has the bandwidth to think.
Exactly. She checks her weekly plan, sees the conflict, and she can proactively negotiate. She asks, I can do this, but my schedule is tight. Would Wednesday morning be okay instead?
And that shift from just reacting to actually negotiating, that's everything. That's the difference between being a slave to your schedule and actually controlling your outcomes.
It changes the entire feel of the day. She ends it with the planned dinner, a sense of accomplishment, and gets good sleep. Life still throws curveballs. She mentions finding lice on her kid at the end of Monday, too. But the system provides resilience.
Right. It's about tipping the balance. More proactivity, less reactivity. And planning is really about making space for what you find wonderful in between all the stuff you have to do.
And that's exactly what we're here to do, to see how that resilient system is built.
Okay, so if the goal is to build that resilient system, where do we start? The book is really clear that the biggest roadblock isn't a lack of desire. It's something she calls planner wanderlust.
I love that term. It's this confusion between the product and the process. People think they're planning by buying a new $50 planner or downloading another app.
Or hoard and washi tape. I might be guilty of that one.
We all are. But she calls it wanderlust because we're always searching for the perfect container, but the container doesn't matter. It's the ritual.
The ritual, not the tool. She argues you could plan in a 99-cent notebook and get better results than someone with a huge stack of planners if you master the underlying practices.
And tool number 1, the absolute non-negotiable bedrock, is your master calendar, the source you can trust.
This sounds so basic, but it's where the chaos starts for so many of us.
It is because of fragmentation. We have scattered commitments everywhere. The work Outlook calendar, a Google calendar for personal stuff, the school district app, the sports league app, a whiteboard on the fridge.
It's a mess, and the result is you have zero confidence in your schedule. You're just resigned to the fact that there will always be negative surprises.
So the rule is simple, but it's strict. You need one accurate, complete master calendar. It has to have everything that's time-specific. Paper, digital, doesn't matter. But its accuracy is paramount.
Because it's the only source you're allowed to consult before you commit to anything new.
Exactly. And to get there, she suggests this really smart exercise. You make a table of all your fragmented sources and figure out how to integrate them. Your work calendar might sync automatically, great. But that school calendar PDF, you have to manually enter all those dates into your master calendar right away.
Which leads to the core maintenance ritual, the hardest habit to build. Being ruthless about checking that calendar before you say yes.
Yes. And she has a system for when you're away from it. Say you're at the dentist's office. You don't commit to the next appointment on the spot. You set an immediate reminder for yourself, a text, an email, whatever, to check that tentative time against your master calendar as soon as you can.
No committing until you verify. That eliminates the conflicts right there.
It does. And once you have that clarity about your non-negotiable time, you can move to tool number 2, nested goal setting, connecting dreams to action.
We're all great at making goal lists, right? New Year's resolutions, brain dumps. But they usually fail. Why is that?
Because they lack connection. A list of 30 goals in January is just. It's forgotten by March. The nested goals method creates a hierarchy. Annual goals break down to seasonal, then monthly, then weekly, and finally, daily.
That sounds like a lot of lists, a lot of planning.
It does, but here's the magic. The structure guarantees you actually review your big goals. When you sit down to make your weekly list, you have to look at your monthly list first. When you make your monthly list, you look at your seasonal list.
So your big aspirational annual goals, the ones that really change your life, get reviewed 3, 4, 5 times a year automatically. They're constantly being pulled forward.
Constantly. Let's use that kitchen renovation example. The huge annual goal, renovate kitchen, is just too big and vague to act on.
It's terrifying. Where do you even start?
Right. But the nesting system deconstructs it. The annual goal, renovate kitchen, might break down into a seasonal goal of, say, focus on appliances and cabinetry.
Okay, that's a little more manageable.
Then, for your monthly planning, you consult that seasonal goal and pull forward a task-like item. Order dishwasher and range hood.
And then order dishwasher goes on your weekly list.
And finally, on Tuesday, it becomes a daily task. Call appliance store at 11 a.m. The terrifying project just became a series of tiny, achievable steps that are all linked together.
That reframing it's huge. It demystifies the whole thing. The book acknowledges you could end up with a lot of lists, but she says the process gets really efficient.
Very efficient. A daily list can take less than 10 minutes because you're just pulling from the weekly list. You're not starting from scratch. She calculates the whole system takes up about 1.7% of your waking hours annually.
Wow. That's a tiny investment to steer the other 98.3% of your life.
Exactly. Which brings us to tool number 3, which gets us back to that mental drag from Monday number 1. Airtight task management, closing open loops.
This is about wrestling all the incoming stuff into submission.
Yes, and it ties directly to a psychological concept called the Zeigarnik effect. A psychologist noticed that waiters remembered unpaid orders much better than completed ones.
So our brains are like bad waiters.
Our brains are like bad waiters. They hold on to every single incomplete task, these open loops, and it causes this constant background stress and anxiety.
And with all the digital inputs today, that's a huge burden. So the first step is just brutal honesty, identifying all your inboxes.
And it's more than just email. It's your work email, personal email, the physical mail, your kids' backpacks, which are a huge source of hidden tasks, WhatsApp, Slack, everything. You have to know where tasks are lurking.
Once you have that list, you define your processing cadence.
You decide intentionally how often you're going to process each one. The goal is to avoid missing something urgent, but also to stop compulsively checking every 5 minutes, which just destroys your focus.
So the end goal of processing is triage. You have to ask a few key questions for every single input to decide where it goes so your brain can finally let it go.
Exactly. 5 questions. 1. Is it a task? If yes, it gets assigned to a day, week, or your someday list. 2. Is it a calendar item? If yes, it goes straight to the master calendar.
3. Is it just information you'll need later? That's where she says you file it in a searchable system, like a second brain.
4. Is it important but not for right now? That goes to a future season or the someday list. And 5, does it need a really detailed response? If so, you schedule a block of time to actually work on it later.
And if it's none of those, you can just delete it.
Delete or archive. The whole point is to get everything out of your head and into an external system so your brain can stop nagging you.
Can we just pause on that second brain idea for anyone who isn't familiar with that term? What is it, basically?
Absolutely. It's just an external, searchable, reliable place to store reference material. It's not a to-do list. It's a digital filing cabinet. It's where you put your travel confirmations, copies of school forms, tax documents, that kind of stuff.
So when you need the confirmation for your August trip, you know exactly where to look instead of digging through hundreds of old emails.
Precisely. It's about peace of mind. And when you master these 3 things, the calendar, the nested goals, and this airtight task system, you've built the foundation you need for the bigger picture planning.
So we have the foundation, the 3 core tools. Now we get to zoom out to the macro view, and that starts with the biggest horizon, annual planning. And the book treats this not as just making a list, but as a non-negotiable annual planning retreat.
It has to be. 365 days is a huge amount of time where real transformation can happen, but only if you map it out. So she insists you dedicate 1 or 2 full days to this, and ideally you get out of your house.
Go to a coffee shop, a library, a park, anywhere that signals to your brain that this is important, protected time, an investment in your whole year.
Right. And the retreat has a few key steps. Step 1 is visioning and reflection.
You don't just jump in. You start with a relaxing on-ramp, like a walk or meditation, to quiet your mind.
And then you reflect on the past year. The key is to do it neutrally, with curiosity, not judgment. Celebrate the wins, because we all have a negativity bias and we forget them. But also analyze the challenges. Why did that one goal fail? What's the lesson?
And that look back informs the vision forward. She has you imagine yourself 5-10 years from now if things were going exceptionally well. That gives you that high-level aspiration to ground all the smaller goals.
Step 2 is the calendar landscape review. This is where reality meets the vision. You pull out your master calendar and you map out all the hard, fixed dates for the year ahead.
Holidays, birthdays, big work deadlines, vacations.
All of it. This gives you a clear sense of your existing commitments and, maybe more importantly, your constraints. It forces your goal setting to be realistic.
Right. If you see May and June are already packed with non-negotiable deadlines, you know that's not the season to start a huge, time-intensive new project.
Exactly. It's also when you look at your someday possibilities list and see if any of those long-held dreams like learning a language or taking a big trip might finally fit into the open spaces you see.
Okay, so after that reality check, we get to step 3. Goal generation and auditing. You pick your domains, work, health, fun, etc., and then you just do a big brain dump of all your ideas.
Uncensored. Quantity over quality at this stage. Just get it all out.
And once that list is down, the critical part begins. Auditing and refining. You look for different types of goals, process goals versus outcome goals, and you have to identify the big project goals.
The behemoths, like Publish Book or Flip House. For those, you have to define the very first manageable action step right now. So Publish Book becomes draft outline for agent query.
So you have something concrete to pull forward into your seasonal planning instead of just staring at this terrifying project name.
Exactly. And then comes a step that I think is just brilliant, the fun audit.
This is so important. A critical check to make sure your life is actually enjoyable, not just brutally efficient.
She suggests aiming for a 2-to-1 ratio of fun goals to less fun goals. So if you have an obligatory goal like replace the roof, you need to pair it with at least 2 things that spark genuine joy.
Like plan 2 weekend getaways or finally take that pottery class. If the list is all obligation, you have to either drop something or add more fun. It forces balance.
And the annual retreat ends by setting the date for your first seasonal planning session and putting it in your calendar. You lock in that accountability right away.
So that leads us to seasonal planning, intermittent fresh starts. This is the bridge between the big vision and the daily action.
And she rejects the idea of fixed arbitrary quarters for a lot of people. She says you need to define your flow based on your actual life rhythms.
Because a fixed quarter might not make any sense for you. A parent might find that April to June is just total mayhem with end of school year stuff.
Right. So the author uses a quintile approach, 5 seasons based on the school calendar. A professor might use semesters. A consultant might use reporting deadlines. The points you choose should align with your real-life energy.
And the seasonal planning session is like a mini retreat. It starts with a seasonal reality check. You look at the goals from the last season.
And you decide what to do with the incomplete ones. Do you migrate them? Do you table them? Or do you just drop them entirely? She gives this great example of a goal to do estate planning that she kept migrating for years.
Until what?
Until she analyzed the barrier. It was too big and had no deadline. So she changed the goal from the vague do estate planning to the concrete set-up meeting with lawyer ranger. She added external accountability, and it got done.
That's a great lesson. After that reality check, you review your annual goals again, pulling forward things that are now relevant for the coming season.
And then you do the ideal week exercise. This is where you draw out an idealized 168-hour week, and it forces a reality check you just can't ignore.
The truth comes out.
The truth comes out. If your seasonal goal is to strength train 4 times a week, but your drawing shows you don't actually have 4 open 1-hour slots,
Yeah.
you have to change something.
You either table the goal or you change the logistics. Maybe you switch to home workouts to save time. It forces you to deal with the physical realities of your life.
And finally, you incorporate seasonal wildcards. These are customized audits relevant to your current life stage.
Like what?
Well, for parents, a childcare audit, figuring out summer camps or sitter gaps, or a travel planning audit, booking flights 6 months out when it's cheaper and easier.
I love the meeting worthiness audit.
Oh, it's so good for anyone in a corporate job.
Yeah.
You look at your recurring meetings and ask, does this still need to be an hour? Could this be an email? What is the actual output?
And if the answer is nothing, then your goal for the season becomes to propose changing that meeting.
Exactly. You customize the planning to serve the reality of your life right now, not some abstract ideal.
All right, we're drilling down now to the micro view, where the action really happens. Let's start with monthly planning. This is a shorter check-in, under 2 hours, and it's about consolidating goals and handling that cyclical life maintenance.
A month is a great interval. It gives you 12 clean slates a year. It's manageable. So the goal-setting part is pretty streamlined by now. You just look at your seasonal list, scan your now solidified monthly calendar, and pick out the task-like goals that fit.
So this is where renovate kitchen finally becomes order dishwasher on an actual list with a 30-day horizon. It moves from an idea to a deadline.
Right. But the real value of the monthly rhythm is the monthly life maintenance. This is proactive admin work to prevent small things from becoming big emergencies.
First on that list is zero-based budgeting. And this isn't just about tracking spending, it's about intentional control.
The idea is that every single dollar of your take-home pay gets allocated to a budget category. Spending, short-term savings, whatever. There's no leftover money. You give every dollar a job.
And doing that monthly check-in reveals if your spending actually aligns with your values and intentions.
Exactly. She mentioned starting this after realizing her net worth wasn't where she thought it should be. It's about being an intentional steward of your money, just like you are with your time.
Next up is decluttering and paper management. Because entropy is real, stuff just accumulates.
It does. And instead of waiting for it to become a disaster, she suggests picking one room or one category like books or the junk drawer each month and dedicating a couple of focused hours to it. It's a small, regular pruning that prevents a huge mess later.
And finally, the household supply blitz. This is an audit of all your non-perishables and prescriptions.
This is so simple but so effective. Running out of toilet paper or pet food creates a predictable mini emergency. By checking your stash once a month, You prevent those frantic late-night runs for ronzoni pasta.
Okay, so from monthly, we move to weekly planning, which the author says is her favorite and probably the most powerful step.
168 hours. It's expansive enough to get a lot done, but manageable enough to really wrap your head around. This is where the rhythm of your life is really set.
And the weekly review is a structured session, about 60 to 90 minutes, broken into 5 parts.
Right. Part 1. Reflect and review. You triage any undone tasks from last week. And you have options. You can migrate it, but only if it still serves you. You can make it smaller, you can delegate it, or, bravely, you can just let it go.
Part 2 is look ahead. A really careful day-by-day audit of your calendar. You're looking for those tight transitions or potential conflicts now that things are real.
Part 3. Look around. This is crucial. It means processing your inboxes. For many people, this means getting to inbox 0. Or at least being 100% current right before you start planning.
Why is it so important to do that before you plan? It feels like such a hurdle.
Because if you have 50 unread emails sitting there, your brain is carrying the cognitive load for all of them. By processing them first, deleting, delegating, and scheduling the action, you get a true, honest assessment of your available bandwidth for the week ahead. You're not planning with incomplete data.
That makes sense. Okay, part 4, look within. This is about assessing your current mood and energy.
A week is short enough that you can realistically factor in things like sleep debt or recovery from a hard stretch at work. You plan around your actual energy, not your aspirational energy.
You're setting a realistic agenda, which leads to part 5. Generate tasks. Based on all that, you create your list for the week. And she's pretty firm here. No more than 15 items.
If it's longer, you're probably not being realistic. The list should be motivating, not a demoralizing wall of text.
The second half of the weekly rhythm is weekly ops, which is about final prep. Things like meal planning.
Scheduling your movement or exercise, and critically, planning things like date nights or social stuff 2 to 3 weekends in advance because the good stuff gets booked up.
And the final piece is communication. A weekly meeting with your partner or family with a written record to make sure everyone is on the same page before Monday morning hits.
Then we get to the final level, daily planning, the 1% investment.
Just 10 to 15 minutes a day, either the night before or first thing in the morning. A tiny investment for a huge return in clarity.
The steps are streamlined. Look back at yesterday. Look ahead at today's calendar. Look within at your energy. Then create the list, pulling only a few realistic tasks from your weekly list.
And she emphasizes that you have to write down your habits and routines, too. The things you do for yourself, like reading or meditating. If they're not written down, they get pushed aside.
On those really packed, intimidating days, she suggests using time block planning.
Which is where you assign every minute of your work time a specific task. So it's not a list, it's an agenda.
Exactly. 9.000 to 10.3 deep work on Project X, 10.3 to 11.00 process email. It kills that indecision of what should I do next that leads to procrastination.
And the real value of a daily plan shines when the day goes completely off the rails, like with a sick kid.
Because the original plan exists, you don't panic. You can look at it and quickly identify the 1 or 2 absolute must-do items and then create a compassionate plan B around the crisis.
Planning is never a perfect straight line, so the book dedicates a really important section to the challenges and roadblocks that can make any system fail. First up is the really serious issue of burnout and feeling stuck.
This section was actually inspired by a listener of hers who felt paralyzed by her task lists, and her therapist diagnosed it as burnout. The insight is that sometimes a better planner isn't the answer. The problem is deeper.
Right. Sometimes what you need is rest, recovery, or professional help, not just a more efficient system. The author even shares her own diagnosis of PMDD and how documenting her struggles helped her get that diagnosis and treatment.
Which shows why documenting matters, even when planning feels like it's failing. For short-term stress, she suggests something kind of surprising, scheduling a time to wallow.
You give yourself permission to just be miserable for 24 to 48 hours. Binge watch TV, listen to sad music, whatever, but with a clear deadline for when you'll get back to it.
It's permission to be human. But for more persistent struggles, the advice is to set a date to reassess and seek expert help. Having that date on the calendar can be the push you need to take action.
Next is a huge one. Overload. When planning isn't enough. The realization that your strategy is fine, but you fundamentally do not have enough time or bandwidth.
The system can help you use your time well, but it can't create more hours in the day. This was a personal realization for the author when she had to leave a major leadership role. She was trying to do too much, and no amount of time blocking could fix it. Something had to go.
So how do you identify if you're truly overloaded?
You look for patterns: chronic sleep deprivation, regularly missing deadlines in different parts of your life, that persistent feeling that you're failing in a core life role.
The suggested action is pretty radical. A from-scratch thought experiment.
If you were designing your life today, would you choose to include this role or activity? It helps you avoid the sunk cost fallacy, sticking with something just because you've already invested so much in it.
That's a brave question to ask.
It is. The book also gets into the dynamics of planning privilege in a household. This is that classic, exhausting scenario where one partner, the planner, carries all the invisible mental load,
While the other partner, the naysayer, devalues the process but still benefits from all the organization. It leads to so much resentment and fatigue.
and it limits the planner's own ability to pursue their goals. The solution requires real accountability and communication, like that mandatory Sunday night family meeting.
Okay, what about planning perfectionism and all-or-nothing thinking? The fear of messing up your brand new planner so you just don't use it.
That is such a common trap. The counter-argument is just pragmatism. Imperfect planning is so much better than no planning at all. The tools are meant to be used, not kept pristine.
And it's okay to take a day off.
It is more than okay. Take a shouldless day. Skip planning on vacation. The goal is consistency over time, not perfection every single day. If you do your weekly planning 8 times out of 10, you are winning.
And finally, the roadblock that affects everyone. Time sucks. Digital distraction. Nobody ever plans to spend 3 hours scrolling Instagram, but it happens.
The author shares that she took the radical step of quitting platforms like Facebook and Instagram entirely because she realized they were a huge barrier to her goals.
But for those of us not ready for that, she suggests using planning as a weapon against it. She intentionally schedules things like read novel and nap on the couch into the downtime that might otherwise get filled with mindless scrolling.
You're assigning a high-value activity to the time slot that was being consumed by a low-value one. It's about being intentional, not just with your work, but with your rest, too.
This deep dive into best-laid plans really shows that planning is a learnable skill. It's not some innate talent that only a few organized people have.
Not at all. The system built on that foundation of calendar integrity, nested goals, and airtight task management, it provides clarity, peace, and that feeling of forward momentum.
And the author reminds us that the true goal isn't a perfect-looking planner or an empty inbox. The end product is, and I love this quote, a life well lived and truly enjoyed.
It's about aligning what you do every day with your core priorities and making sure you actually build in space for the things that you find wonderful, not just the things you feel obligated to do.
Which brings us to our final thought. If the goal is intentional living, then maybe the hardest part of planning isn't organizing everything you want to do, but deciding what not to do. So the question for you to think about is this. What goal or obligation are you holding on to out of a sense of duty, maybe professional, maybe personal, that you don't truly want? And what intentional joy or priority would letting it go make space for in your life right now? Confronting that is the real work of intentional planning.
Thank you for joining us for this in-depth exploration of how to build a resilient planning system.
Thank you for listening to Mindset Matters Book Club. We'll be back soon with another deep dive.